Actually, why do I need this? I have my phone. They'll just tweet me. Like, I'm 34%. Give me a
Creed,
break.
I believe that we are on air. Do you want to start this?
Oh, we're on it. No, it says off air. We're off air.
No, it says that we're
Oh,
live
it's
here.
live. It says live. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the mobile CredeCast here. This is your host, the Self-Supremacy, the CEO of the UWE. And as you can see, I'm doing this on my cell phone with quality less than 360 pixels, probably so. This is Everett Creed, and I am here with a very special guest at this time. Please welcome APW's own Jason Walker. Jason, how you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing all right.
Oh, doing
Doing
better than
all
me,
right.
that's for sure. This was a nightmare to say. This was actually supposed to go down Friday, and then for some goddamn reason, my computer said, "Oh, we're gonna, bug this motherfucker." And now my computer can barely load anything. But the best part is that I can somehow the only web browser that possibly works is Facebook. And for some reason, November's the fall. It's just, it was like, that was the only thing that could work for me was those two websites. Those two web browsers were the only ones that could freaking work. So now, 24 hours passes by. I promised Jason here that I'd give him a CredeCast. And then all of a sudden, the new computer that I got, for some reason, decides it wants to bug. And I'm like, okay, so that's two now in the crapper. And for some reason it wouldn't let me start the video on the air on my channel, which I'm like, all right, that's fine. Let's just, have it do on the APW channel. That's my father. He's cooking an apple pie. See, CredeCast has desserts. So now, apparently, I couldn't start the video on air, but I'm like, you know what? It's fine because we could just do it on the APW channel so that people from APW can see the not only the inside scoop, but the thoughts of Jason Walker, kind of the origins and all the questions that I'm going to ask. By the way, if anybody has any questions for the CredeCast here tonight, if you have me on Facebook, you could DM me. And if you have me on Twitter, you can tweet me as well at Self-Supremacy, capital S's. Well, I think I finally got that out of my system. So, Jason, I'll ask you first. What'd you think of November's the Fall?
Oh, well, Corey and I always come out on top, dominant. Everything else, it's just how we expected everything to go. I took Nick under my wing, and I think November the Fall went exactly as planned. Except for that little part at the end with Thomas Gray, but we overlooked that.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I was going to pick up on later in the show was Thomas Gray and as well as Shavarticus and some other young cats that are trying to make a name for themselves here at APW. So while I get to that, let's start with some interesting questions. First off, let's start to the beginning. Let's go to the very roots. How did you come up with the actual character of Jason Walker?
Well, let's see, the actual character of Jason Walker. Where did I come up with that? Well, when I first started in AP, HBTW, or it was something like that. I forget what the original thing was. ACBTW or whatever it was. Me and a couple of my friends just got started, and as we were really getting into it, all of them left. So I had to find a new group, and that's when I met Corey, and we were talking about stuff. We were throwing things back and forth, and I'm like, well, Jason sounds pretty intimidating, right? Jason? No. But the last name Walker, I wanted something to do with Skywalker, but Jason Skywalker didn't really ring, so I just took the Sky out of Walker, and that's how I got the name Jason Walker. As for the character, I like Jason to be the opposite of what, Charles Price is. Charles Price is not nice and caring, and, it's just everything is peachy. But for Jason, oh no, there's a couple screws loose up in there.
Yeah, that's, one of the things I noticed was the character itself, Jason Walker, definitely stands out from the person known as Charles Price. That's just something to me I could relate to on so many levels because, a lot of people could say Everett Patterson, he's a funny guy. He's one of the nicest guys I know, very respectful. But then if you kind of study up on certain characters that I portray, not exactly the same as how I am personally. Like Everett Creed could be considered a self-conceited narcissist. You know, thinks he just is given the silver spoon by himself. And Lips is just, you know, a guy that, well, was brought up in a very interesting household. He must have been to be the way. So, you know, definitely an oddball to say the least. But I was just gonna say how you came up with the name Jason Walker, but I could see like the Skywalker influence in there. Like I actually didn't believe Skywalker was gonna be an influence to the name Jason Walker, but I knew how big of a nut you were about Star Wars.
Yeah.
And before we get to the rest of the stuff about the business, I wanted to ask, like, what do you feel about this upcoming film that's coming up later this year? What do you think is going to be special about it?
Well, I'm assuming you're talking about Star Wars. I'm excited. I'm excited for Star Wars Episode 7. It's been quite a while since we actually had a Star Wars movie. I'm a big fan of the Force Unleashed games. I like the first one more than I did the second one. But about the upcoming movie, you know, the trailers that I've seen for it, it brings back the child in me. Although I consider myself kind of a child mentality, but I think it'll be a good movie. I'm interested to see where if they totally ignore the prequels, or if, you know, something about the prequels will come into play, because, you know, people always give the prequels a bad rep, but I didn't mind them. I didn't mind them.
Yeah, it was so funny. I was actually studying up on this in college, and all about the prequels and how they kind of went with a certain direction that people may not have liked as much. But to me, I always, when I was little, I liked the prequels because I saw the action scenes and it was pretty good. But at the same time, it kind of showed to me, believe it or not, it was actually wrestling that showed to me why I liked 4, 5, and 6 better. Because you could do anything as far as the choreography with a lightsaber battle. But I was watching a review and saying how the battle between Obi-Wan and Vader in A New Hope on the Death Star was a more storytelling performance than the completely outstanding battle that Obi-Wan and Vader had in Revenge of the Sith. What did you think about the difference between those two battles? Because I feel like that really does tie into the wrestling business as well.
Well, that's a very interesting, really interesting question. I don't exactly know how to approach that question. The difference between the two battles, it's pretty much, it's obvious there, but I want to say, you know, foreshadowing, I guess. I'm trying to think of a word to describe it here, but I'm at a loss here because that's a really creative question.
Yeah, I was noticing it, and I was watching the choreography in episode 3, and then I watched how, like, even though they kind of fought a little awkwardly in episode 4, I still noticed the storytelling was so pure.
Yeah.
And how Vader has said, the last time we met, I was nothing but the learner. Now I'm the master. And Obi says, if you strike me down, I should become more powerful than you ever imagined. And it was just so storytelling. And then it kind of made me realize that about the wrestling business as well, is that you can perform any amount of high risk inside the ropes, but it's when you get into that psychological warfare, and it doesn't always have to be a character that is larger than life. You could use, you know, anybody that you could use any amateur superstar and make them a big time player if you're able to tell the story in the ring. Because that's how I see it. Now, what made you get into the business? Like, what made you get into like backyard wrestling?
What made me get into backyard wrestling? I guess it was from, 2006 to 2000. I officially started stuff on YouTube in 2007, but I watched, surprisingly back then, I watched a lot of SmackDown, and one of my earliest things that I remember is watching Rey Mysterio against, I think it was Brock. I think it was Brock Lesnar, but that's my second earliest memory of professional wrestling. And I when I saw that, I'm like, well, hey, I have a trampoline. I mean, I kind of looked at the trampoline, looked at what I saw on TV, and I'm like, I could do some of that. And that's kind of where I got the idea for, backyard wrestling. That was the old ACBTW. But that vanished in like early 2009, and then HBTW came along in 2010, and everything just skyrocketed from there.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, my first wrestling memory was live, I should say, was WrestleMania 18. And I remember I was just peeping out and I saw my dad watching Rock and Hogan. And I'm kind of like, whoa, this is, pretty intense because all I see are two guys in the ring, but 54,000 fans screaming their heads off. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this is whatever they got to be doing must be important. And once I studied more up on wrestling, I became more of a fan of The Rock. And then I started watching a little bit more. And then I got into The Undertaker. And it just kind of grabbed onto me. And ever since SummerSlam '02, where they were in Nassau Coliseum, that's all of a sudden I was into the business, and that's when I just got sucked in.
Yep.
So now it's well past that time, and now it's kind of like we have evolved so much. I remember, oh my god, one of my we all go through a time. Did you ever go through a phase where all of a sudden you felt like, okay, this is a bit goofy for my character?
Yeah, that was actually my first character ever. I was going to be Charles Cunningham because I was going through a blue blood phase. I was going to be like Hunter Hearst Helmsley, and I wanted to do that really bad. But then I thought to myself, I can't portray that in a backyard. So
How did that not go over?
Well.
I was watching Stone Cold podcast, and he was telling Edge and Christian, they were talking about Edge's first character being Sexton Hardcastle, and just like, how did that not get over? And Austin started talking about how his first character was going to be Samson Sinclair, and I'm just cracking up hysterical. My first character, oh my god, this is a nightmare. My first character, I remember because I created him in the video game, and he had like a medieval Black Knight mask, and he had like this stupid like paint on his arms in like a form of like a skull, and his name was just the Icon Everett, and it was just like I'm just like, it was like, are you kidding me? Why did this like come into my head? And then Creed came in, and I'm like, let's not go back to the Icon Everett for a while.
Oh man.
So, what do you believe makes now in 2015? What makes Jason Walker stand out from the rest of the BYW frontline?
Well, you see, I actually kind of was hoping you'd ask that question or a form of that question. I don't think that I'm actually that much standing out anymore. I think that 2013 and maybe up until No Resurrection 3. That was in 2014, but between those 2 years, I think that was my last really standout point. I've popped in and out through the things every now and then, but other than that, I don't think Jason Walker stands out really much, and that's the problem that I'm having right now for 2016. I want something for Jason Walker to not only stand out, but have a good following. I know APW has a good following. I know that, Corey has a good following. I do have a good following. But I would like to see 2016 be I hate to say it, but a year of Jason Walker. I don't want to put down anybody else because, it's anybody's year. But I really want to be the one in 2016 to stand out.
Well, they always, the best in the business have always said, if you're not in this to be the best, then you got to go home, because you just have to have this passion and this desire to really stand out, because if you don't, you're going to be left behind. And once you're left behind the herd, you're going to be trampled all over. Now let's go back to 2010, because HBTW was one of the fastest rising backyard wrestling leagues, and there was a lot of competition. They had ETTW, which was really big around that time. Both of us know we're both a big time Forsaken fan, and his matches that he had at Oblivion 4 against Dylan Kreese.
Yep.
And there was just many other matches, Battle for the Belts when he went against Jamie Anderson. He's just had amazing matchups, and he had one with TKO recently. But also in this time in 2010, there was an upstart breakout rivalry between you and Corey Graves. And what did you feel about that rivalry now, looking back, now that it's all said and done? Is there anything you would have changed as far as the in-depth of the writing itself, or maybe the publicity of how it got out to the fan base? Is there anything you would have changed?
Oh, there was a lot of things that I would have changed. If I had the chance to, I would have probably gone back, and you see what we did in 2010. We put the camera on a ladder, and it was just a steady view instead of the mobile camera with people walking around. So that's one thing I would have changed. I would have switched to the mobile camera earlier, and I would have you see, we were just getting started because I didn't do much in ACBTW, whatever that was called. That's a mouthful, but I didn't do much in there. And this was the first thing that, it was me, Corey, and our other guy, Tyron Frost. It was us three, and we didn't really have stories. We just did matches because, we thought it was fun, and we just uploaded it to YouTube and hoped things for the best. We didn't exactly get popular until 2012. From No Resurrection, the original No Resurrection on, that's when we got popular. Actually, no, it wasn't No Resurrection. It was even before that. It was the original Last Shot. It was that pay-per-view. It was Jackal and Corey Graves and Chris Payne and Jason Walker.
And there you go. Let's actually, let's just go off on a little tangent because we'll definitely get back to Corey in a second. Now, Chris Payne was one of the breakout stars that really became a standard bearer for your federation for both HBTW, and then in the beginning, it was also a standout for APW as well. Now that Chris Payne has gone off to fight for the service, what do you feel about his career? Like, what are your feelings about the character of Chris Payne, how he motivated not only a lot of backyard wrestling, even that the fans came after his time, but what do you feel specifically that was special about Chris Payne?
I have a lot of respect for Chris, not only because he went to the Air Force and he's doing his stuff right now, but I respect him for, he came in, he had one match, and we're like, okay, he really picked up on stuff. And so we let him have the ITW title, and he ran with it. He was good he was good on the mic. He was great in wrestling, and I still consider him, Corey and I both still consider him a better wrestler than both of us. He caught on to it faster than we did. And I mean, I'm kind of a little jealous about that because when we needed him the most here in APW, he kind of left. But that's not for me to really complain about. That's something that we should all be proud of. But looking back at his career, what I think that set him in stone in HBTW and for a little bit in APW is that he had, I would like to say, a mixture of maybe not a mixture, but he was kind of like our Stone Cold. He just came out and he beat people up and he left. And that's it. You would think that you can only do that so much, but it really, really stuck with him, and he got really over because of it. I mean, he's our Stone Cold basically, so I can't really say much more than that.
Yeah, I mean, when you compare anybody for that matter to Stone Cold Steve Austin, because he was just so good and technically sound in the ring, but it was more than just that. He became the transcending of an era, and that's what really is the ultimate compliment. If you can transcend an era, then you have had it made from the get-go. And that's what Chris Payne, in my opinion, offered to APW as well, and as well as HBTW when it was around. Now,
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of people that probably have not went back to HPTW, and there's probably a lot of people that have. If you haven't, definitely check out No Resurrection 3, which is what's going to be my next topic here. It was a triple threat, and this was, to me, the Bay of Pigs for HPTW. This was the swan song, and what a way to go out. A triple threat match with three of the most significant figures in that business, and the ending was up to the fan base to decide. And that's what I really thought was interesting, because that's what made that triple threat match stand out even more than the actual 5-star performance that you guys put on. And the way I saw that, I was just amazed by that. So if anybody did not see No Resurrection 3, go ahead and check it out as well. You got to see that triple threat between Walker, Graves, and Chris Payne. Absolutely amazing. What were your thoughts about that match as you were actually in the midst of the actual match itself?
Well, we all knew it was what No Resurrection 3 was supposed to be. It was supposed to be our last show. We weren't supposed to come back with APW. It was our last thing. So, Chris, Corey, and I, we just realized that, hey, we need to show who we are. We need to cement our legacies, and we did just that. That's what I believe, and that's how our legacies, that's what do I want to say? Our legacies is what brought us back to do APW. And I actually don't know how much of a good idea that was, especially from my point of view. I'm not saying that APW is a bad thing. I mean, we're doing pretty good and everybody still likes us. But coming from my end of it, after I faced Drew, because I had that thing with Drew after No Resurrection 3, after I faced Drew, I realized that the Jason Walker character went down in popularity. And I just kind of sat back and I realized, oh man, I think I just screwed up everything that I've done in HBTW, because everybody knew who I was, and then all of a sudden, there's new companies bursting out onto the scene. VTW is finally getting recognition, then UWE comes in, and now I feel that APW is the middle child. He's trying to constantly fight between two. I don't want to say lesser evils, but two, controlling siblings.
That's a good way to put it, because, when anyone thinks of the big three right now, with all due respect to any other federation, it is without a shadow of a doubt the three that you've mentioned, the UWE, the APW, and VTW as well. I actually got a question on Twitter from Jared Bowden, I believe that's how you pronounce it. I'm not too sure. What's his, as in Jason Walker, what's Jason Walker's top favorite opponents in the yard, and his top 5 opponents that he wants to face? So if you could name just a short list, not even a list, but a select amount of people, or one person in particular that you have enjoyed stepping in the ring with the most so far. If there's one opponent that stood out to you.
Oh man, I've gone through a lot of people in both HBTW and APW. And APW is kind of like the era of crossovers, because we've had people come up here and done some stuff. My favorite opponent, that one's hard. It's actually one of the people that I really enjoy wrestling is actually Thomas Gray. Me and him are going to face off at December Absolute Zero, shameless plug. And I kind of don't want to give away too much, because the match is already recorded and we just need to put it out for you guys. But that match I really enjoyed. He puts out some really good work, and out of character speaking, I highly enjoyed his match with Corey Graves at November the Fall. He's a really hard worker and he really improved. That is one of my favorite people that I have faced. But if we're talking about from another company, I had a really fun time facing Daisy, actually. Yeah, I know. I mean, Drew wasn't bad either. Drew was my first crossover event, so they're all sitting equal on a podium, and I can't really push anybody off right now until somebody else comes along. So,
Well, you said Drew was your first crossover, and there's definitely going to be more to come. Now, speaking of crossovers, one that stands in particular was Best in the Yard, the very first one, and unfortunately, you were not able to go to this one. Do you
No.
feel like there's, because I know at the time when it was starting to get really hectic and there was a lot of haste, a lot of all that kind of stuff, a lot of publicity and hype. Did you feel like kind of a little ticked? Because I know there was a lot of people that were in other federations that were not going to, Best in the Yard. Maybe that their individual product was kind of being put to the side. And I could definitely understand where certain people in that situation would get a little aggravated. What did you feel when, kind of like the ship for Best of the Yard was setting sail and, you know, you had to stay back on this one?
Yeah, it was. I look at it now, and I I kind of see how I don't want to. Okay, I'll say it. I realize how stupid I acted because I did get ticked. This is special on the CredeCast here. Jason Walker shares his feelings, and but yeah, I got mad because I realized that this is something that probably could have helped me come back from my failed storyline in APW, and I thought to myself, oh man, college is really hitting me hard here. Not only in the financial thing, but in my social status. But I got mad because of how much it was getting talked about and how much it was getting hyped up. And I had to ask myself, do you even believe your own hype right now? And a lot of people, I thought was kind of blinded by the hype, but I see now that it was a really big milestone and that everybody should be proud of what they did there.
I think I was definitely looking at it when it first developed, and I'm like, does sound like a dream card. It doesn't sound like anything that could get pulled off. And then the next thing I know is Tyler's calling me out for Best in the Yard, and I'm like, all right, sure, and stuff like that. And then the date starts to get a little bit closer, and then a little closer, and then the next thing I know, I'm in a car, with Cam, Dirty DeChico, and Corey Graves, and we were at a Denny's at 3 a.m. I'm like, God damn, this is actually happening. Now, speaking of Corey, because you have had a significant rivalry with Corey Graves, there's a lot of federations out there that have two people that stand out. In the UWE, a lot of people will say it was myself and Cameron Jackson. A lot of people say we're the Rock Austin of the UWE. And to get that entitlement, it means that it is the ultimate showdown between two irresistible forces. And that's what I kind of see with you and Corey. Not really the same elements as a Rock and Austin, but as far as a popularity status and the significance of the rivalry, I would say that you two had an amazing amount of history as opponents. But now, all of a sudden, after everything is said and done, you have this, what you like to call a long-term investment in Corey Graves. So after the years of battling against him, why now are we taking his side?
Well, you see, it starts back. It starts. Oh, geez. Yep, season 1 of APW. It was match 8. I finally came back to on-screen performance, and I had a match against Silencio. So, Silencio, not too much of a bad opponent. He can't believe his own hype, and all of a sudden, I had this vision, and I got counted out because of what I was seeing. It was like a picture right in front of me. I was looking up at the sky, and all I saw was red. All I saw was red. And I saw somebody cloaked in red standing there. I have no idea who this person is. I don't want to know, Everett. I really don't want to know. But to take a precaution right now, I'm forming an army, per se. I'm already a part of Ecstasy in NGW. I am a part of JCI, Joe Cole Incorporated. And now I have the Eastern State Penitentiary with Corey Graves and Nick Myers. So I have fashioned myself, olive branches between a few people and a few different feds. And I'm gonna take more precautions as time goes on, because this person is supposedly, this man in red is going to end Jason Walker. He's going to make Jason Walker retire. Jason Walker is, as our good friend Cameron Jackson would like to say, CJ Eternity. So Jason Walker is going to be eternal.
Yeah. Now, let's get into how Jason Walker has really made an impact in the backyard wrestling community, because there are a lot of people that will say that Jason Walker, without a shot of a doubt, is one of the most psychological and one of the most sophisticated when it comes to the creative side of the business. You know, we think very alike when it comes to that, when it comes to the creative side. But there's also some people that may not take well to your liking. So let's, what do you want to talk? You want to talk about Bad Reed? Because there's obviously, there's going to be some people that may not agree with your tactics, and I'm sure, Reed may have some differences. I think it's more so professional, nothing really personal. But what do you think as far as Reed as a performer? Because
As a performer, jeez, that's so hard, because okay, I guess I'll be nice to him.
hey man, you got to lay it down sometimes.
I mean, Trinity, help. Anyways, as a performer, he's a good performer. I'll give him that. He's agile. He can lift, apparently. I don't know how that happens, but he can lift, apparently. I don't have a problem with him as a performer, because I know the Bad Reed back in AGW or BEW would get the job done. But when it comes to people like us, I don't think he has a chance.
What makes you think he doesn't have, what makes you think that, what is it about Reed that kind of makes him different from the others in the pack? Is it more so like a retaliation and he kind of, bit your bone first and then you bit back? Or is it more so that you just found something that didn't really, about him that separated him from the rest of the pack?
Without going into too many personal details,
okay.
I just didn't like him. I understand the whole difference between a character and the way that you act. I don't like him. I don't like the way that he acts. I don't like how he claims that he could wrestle, circles in a square around people. But it doesn't really matter, Creed, because he's not part of our pack. He's on the outside of our walls, Creed. He's not in with us. So I'm sorry, Reed, but you're not going to be one of the it people. Reed, just get that through your head. You're not.
There you go. I got a question from BH Login_Hanley. Have you heard of any British BYW shows, and if so, who? If you've heard of any British BYWs, who would you face? As a matter of fact, I actually have not really seen anything over in the United Kingdom, and I think a big reason of that is it's just, I don't know about you, but to me, I feel like right now the UK gets a lot of, you want to talk about hype with Best in the Yard. The UK gets a lot of hype because they are known as now the new wrestling country, and I'm not exactly how you felt about Best in the Yard is how I feel about certain talents from the United Kingdom. I feel like they get a little bit pushed heavy because they're from that region. If they were from anywhere else, I feel like they may not have as much publicity. What do you think?
Yeah, I do agree with you. I can't see. I actually don't know any British wrestler groups. I don't know. I'm more Americanized. Yeah, I'm more Americanized. Like, I know the East Coast of backyard wrestling, and that's pretty much it.
The East Coast.
Yeah, the East Coast of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands. We the people.
Yep.
But other than that, I do think they take themselves into really, really high standards. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, you know, you're talking really high about yourself. Where's your videos? And then I'll get some BS answer like, oh, we haven't recorded anything yet. And I'm sitting there thinking, you're really telling me this? You're really saying that you're the best and you don't have videos up?
Yeah.
That's one of the most common problems I have with the British people.
What now? Let's talk about your thoughts on the new breed of APW, because there's a lot of new cats out there that are going to try to make a name for themselves. The Shavardacuses, the Thomas Grays. You know, we're seeing a lot more new breakout superstars. Do you see potential of one of them stepping up to the ranks of yourself and Corey Graves?
Myself and Corey Graves. That's, oh geez, you're gonna make me go out of character for this one. I, I mean, on a personal level, Thomas Gray does have it. If he would show up more, Just Doug also has it. I know that's a weird thing to say, but Just Doug also has a chance to be a Corey Graves or a Jason Walker. He's actually really tremendous, and it's really sad that he doesn't come as often as he should, because he already has a good following. Like, he has more of a following than I do right now, and I'm trying to figure out why.
You know, there's some cats out there that get out. The Winnipeg Warrior, for the love of God, this guy was so big, and I'm like, what the F did he do that was so important?
Yeah.
He had a half-ass Rey Mysterio mask, and I know I played the character, but I'm like, come on, there's no effort in this. Like, it's just, I go out there, I start talking crap, and I get my ass kicked, and people just eat it up. They eat it up like a fat guy eats Twix, and it's just like, what the hell? Like, all right, whatever. Now, there's one guy that I see in APW that really catches my attention. And I feel like, not that he doesn't get pushed, because he definitely got a significant push, and I was definitely a fan of how he did. And the guy is Shavardakus Jackson. I really see the moldings of a superstar here, because he definitely stands out in APW. Because to me, it's kind of like, here's this guy that is completely different from the rest of the molding and the rest of the pack. You know, you got oh shit. All right. Well, you got about I'd say a 6-inch spider over here next to my studio. I kid you not. There's a spider just crawling around here, and this guy is I mean, I'm kid you not. It's probably the size of, like, you know, Big Mother Lover. But like I said about Shavardakus, creeping up, and he becomes the first APW champion. And all of a sudden, he just has this swagger to him. And I think once he learns how to run the ropes, and once he loses a bit of that green in him, and he starts, you know, really molding into the ring, I think you got something there. You know, you got someone, to me, that definitely stands out in Shavardakus. What do you think?
Shavardakus was one of our original new people. It's one of the first ones. A lot of people complain about the mask characters, but we only had like 4 at the time, and we
I never
had
had a problem with the mask characters. I felt like all of them stood out in their own way. Yeah, Arkham was a little bit, had some, you know, distinct influence, but once I saw the red camo, I'm like, you know what? Sold. I like it.
Yep.
Anarchy is one of my favorites. I love Anarchy. The only thing I will say about Anarchy that really kind of gets a little bit under my skin is a respect level. I feel like, you know, that's the only thing that I feel like, you know what, someone out there has got to, you know, kind of put him in line. And other than that, he's definitely brash. He definitely has an opinion about himself and others in APW, and he could be a great superstar. I just feel someone's got to knock him in place, and, you know, if it's not going to be anybody soon, it's, you know, who knows? I might have to do it myself, you know. But
Yep.
But what do you see in, you know, the young breed in APW, especially Shavardakus and the mass characters, as you said?
Yeah, as I was saying, Shavardakus was one of our newer people, and he's actually been the one who's been helping us recruit some actual, you know, more people without masks and all that whole entire argument. But as for I'm glad you think that way about Anarchy, because I kind of sent him off into the distance to the Altoona Asylum, so he's been rotting in there, and I don't know when he's going to come back. We haven't got his release papers yet, and it seems that Slade took some of his gear, so I don't know what's going on there. But
Yeah.
as for the new breed, I like everybody. I like Arkham, I like Anarchy, I like Shivarticus. I do believe that what we have future planned is going to make APW, step out of the whole middle child area. I do believe that we will have some really, really good entertaining and wrestling spots in 2016 with our new weekly shows, our 3 pay-per-views instead of 2, and going into 2017, hopefully. But that's what I think about the new generation. Thomas Gray is definitely stepping up to the plate and showing what he's got, and hopefully he can hit a home run against Corey, but I don't think I'll allow him to do that. I need my investment safe.
Mm-hmm. It's a good, good way to put that. I know you had a match with Shavar at November the Fall. I watched it. It was very interesting. I definitely was a fan of how he has evolved. At first he was big green, but now all of a sudden I see him doing maneuvers like a fireman's carry knee face buster. I see him do gut checks. I'm seeing him. That really caught me when he did the gut check. I think that's what they call it now, the gut check. It's the fireman's carry gut buster.
Yep, gut check. Yep.
The gut check. And I saw Shivarticus do that. And I'm like, wow. I don't know if someone taught him that or if he just kind of watched Darren Young do it and they kind of, just snapped. But I was watching it and I was like, wow, this really caught my eye. So, definitely looking forward to seeing more of him. Let's talk about Drew. Let's talk about Drew Hood, because this is what this really was what made me realize crossovers were beginning to be a trend, because they were kind of a thing before, but the first time I seen a crossover rivalry was with you and Drew. And I remember I was sitting at home and I was upstairs and I was going through the first Survivalist Coliseum. And I was, watching, I was kind of like watching over, editing some things. And Ken comes to me and says, "You got to see this. The community's blowing up." And I'm like, "What's going on?" "See for yourself." And I see you in this garage and like this like dark, creepy shed. And all of a sudden, this becomes probably, in my opinion, the promo that, I'm not going to say the promo that put you on the map, because you're already on the map. I think it's what made you significant now to the community. And that's what kind of puts your name in the hat of one of the most controversial and one of the darkest heels in not only our time, but now you're going in a little bit wider horizon. Because now you have taken a personal matter and used it to your advantage for a storyline. So what did you feel about that promo with the burning photo?
I really think it yeah, I guess for lack of a better term, it dropped the bass. It dropped the bass.
It dropped the bass.
Yeah, it dropped the bass. Oh jeez. Oh, I'm gonna get nailed on that.
Dropped the bass.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, it was just, I was watching it and I see all of a sudden, Drew, this innocent kid, and he's smiling with his girlfriend, Jessica, and I see this picture burning and I'm like, oh my God, this guy is going to get his ass kicked. He's calling for it. And it was just so many mind games. And I remember around that time I was playing Batman Arkham Origins, and it reminded me of some Mad Hatter shit. And I'm like, wow, this cat, because he's smaller in stature, but yet at the same time, he's playing these psychological mind games. And I really enjoyed seeing that. And the payoff was seeing you and Drew. And what did you feel about that crossover? Because that really, in my opinion, put crossovers in the business and in the community on the map.
Yeah, you see, I guess I didn't really answer your question about the whole picture burning thing. For the picture burning thing, I realized that Drew wasn't going to come up here. So I took matters into my own hands, and I just decided to do what was necessary to get him to come up here, and do the whole bait and switch thing, and I beat him up, and then he beat me up, and then you didn't see anything of Jason Walker for a few weeks, for about a year actually, and then Fright Night, and then all that stuff. But as for crossovers, yes, I do believe it put it on the map. It was like, oh hey, he's actually there. They're actually gonna fight, because before that there was a thing in HBTW with a company called JCID. It's not popular and it's gone. We beat them out. We WCW'd them.
Yeah, there you go.
and
Turner?
yeah, we Ted Turnered them. But what it was a chance to see that two people can actually meet and actually put on a good show. And it was about like a 30-minute video, 20-minute match, I'm not sure, but Drew had what was coming to him. This is what happens when you try to back out on something you talk to me with. I don't take things lightly.
Yeah, that was, in my eyes, definitely that really made an interest, and I think it influenced a couple of people as well as far as what they want to go down. I feel that there's certain characters in backyard wrestling that have an influence on some of the younger cats. There was a kidnapping video that took place in the UWE, and then a couple weeks later, I've seen another couple of feds doing it.
Yeah.
I see a guy that, and I've actually had a lot of history with this one individual, and I see a little bit of the Jason Walker character into him. And he's kind of big right now, and his name is Tyler Storm. He offered you a challenge at Best in the Yard, kind of very similar to how he offered me a challenge. And the only difference is that I accepted, and we had our match. But now, especially with what we've been saying earlier about how you kind of wanted the opportunity to go to Best in the Yard, Tyler Storm offers you I guess a similar key to Walker as he did with me, and all of a sudden you say no. Like, do you feel like he's not on your level? Do you see a molding of yourself when you look at Tyler Storm?
Do I see a molding? I see a complete exact copy. It's kind of it's weird how when I dropped the Phantom mask, he picked it up and painted it black. I don't know what that's about, but you can obviously see that Tyler took inspiration from me. I mean, I was one of the big cats. I did what was popular and I took it to the next level. And Tyler tried to do that, and now he's having matches with people like Big Time Mike and Drew Hood. And it's all people that people like us, Creed. We can beat people like them. We obviously can beat people like them. And the reason why I said no to Tyler, it's because, to tell you the truth, I don't have a good reason right now. I mean, I could say that I don't think he's on my level. We both know that's kind of not that's not true, kind of. And it's hard to explain why I said no, because sometimes I just do things to piss people off. And I mean, I guess that's kind of the route I was taking, but I don't want a match with Tyler. There's no reason that I want his YouTube title. Like, why would I want that? There are things in this life, Tyler, that you sometimes just can't have. And in the match with me, you're not going to get that until you can convince me somehow that you're worth my time. Somehow that you can convince me that Jason Walker versus Tyler Storm at Best in the Yard will be beneficial to me. And there you have it.
That's a good, very interesting defense there, because I squared off against Tyler, LMS, and I think the biggest difference was that he was willing to do whatever it takes to break that glass ceiling. And the order versus chaos thing, and I was really high on my horse when it became known that I was really gonna take over VTW as the CEO, and I was gonna beat the champion. And I feel like I tried to keep it at bay, and kind of became the disciplinary in that match, and kind of was trying to take Tyler to the woodshed and teach him a lesson. And then all of a sudden, the next thing I knew, I found a chair wrapped around my neck, and the next time I woke up, I found out I lost the match. Now, there's a really interesting thing about Tyler Storm, because I see definitely moldings of Jason Walker, and when I see Walker, I definitely see moldings.
Oh, okay. I think we lost Creed
I'm
here.
sorry. Yeah, no, I'm back.
Uh,
I had a phone call. Oh God, Angie's gonna kill me. Yeah, she called me. All right. So anyway, like I was saying before, Tyler Storm has. Oh, apparently, her phone is calling everybody. So anyway, like I said before, now you're seeing Tyler Storm go against a guy like Drew Hood, and certainly people that we have fought before. We both fought Drew Hood, and definitely an interesting outcome. Now, let's go a little bit sooner, because we got your feelings on Tyler. Let's go back to your world. Let's go to Thomas Gray at Absolute Zero. What exactly do you feel is different about Thomas Gray than anybody else that you have ever seen, not only in APW but the community itself?
Because I believe that Thomas Gray has an unsurmountable belief that he just wants to hurt Corey. That's all he wants to do. I've never seen somebody, maybe other than Zach Daniels, trying to hurt Drew. I've never seen anybody who wants to hurt somebody as much as Thomas Gray, and he will nail anybody that gets in his way. Now, I mean, at Absolute Zero, of course I'm going to beat him. There's no doubt in that. But it's going to be a tough fight for me. It's going to be hard. I don't know exactly how I'm going to combat this, because I'm not the biggest of guys, and he's our biggest guy, both physically and starting to be popularity kind of wise. And other than that, I mean, he wants to hurt Corey. That's all I can say. And after his despicable actions at jeez, I'm forgetting
November the fall.
November. Yeah, I'm forgetting my own company. Sorry. He hit me with a bat.
We all do it, man. It's all good. What's an ultimate redemption? We got it all. So, my bad. You were saying that.
Yeah, I mean, his despicable actions at November the fall. It goes to show that he tied me up in a really, really fast rate. I mean, I went in the back. I was covered, and that was it. Jeez.
Yeah. You wanted to talk about despicable actions, and right now this is actually going to be our final topic, because this is one that I really feel has caught the interest of some people, because including yourself, because the Expedition Files is really what started all of this, which a lot of people didn't exactly catch on to them. I did. I noticed the significance and the similarities and the idea of how that was going to come across. And I still feel that it did pay off in a lot of ways, because it's still kind of becoming a movement in the showcase of Jason Walker. I feel like if I got BYW 2K16 and there was a showcase of Jason Walker, the Expedition Files would have played well in this story, because it leads to this man in red, this red prophecy. And it's been going around for quite some time now, and we're not too sure, or we weren't too sure of what it was. And then all of a sudden, Corey gets himself disqualified against Thomas Gray, and you pull the trigger. And right before you're able to get on your feet, we hear the very enthusiastic confession of the man in red. And it turns out to be someone not even from the APW, but someone actually that's in my federation, and somebody that has caused a lot of personal hell amongst a lot of people in backyard wrestling. And it turns out that the man in red is Lips. What? Uh, I mean, there's no easy way to really ask this question. If it is true that Lips is indeed the man in red, how in the F are you going to be able to handle Lips? Because that is just you know, you have played mind games throughout your entire career, but now all of a sudden it looks like it's kind of like one of those questions: is the hunter going to become the hunted? And that really caught my eye when I saw Lips, you know, trying to call you out for retro invasion. So, what are your thoughts about Lips? You know, being the supposed man in red.
That's a funny wording right there. Suppose you see in in a lot of prophecies, there's always that false prophet, the one who spreads around the the oh geez, just thinking about it is getting me really. Oh man, how do I combat this? I don't know. There's been a lot of false prophets in everything: the Bible, the Quran, the Buddhist scriptures. There have been false prophets everywhere. Lips claiming that he is the man in red. I do not believe this. I don't believe he is going to be the one to end Jason Walker. I will not let this happen. I am not going out like this. I'm not going out from Oh, geez. I would rather have faced the Winnipeg Warrior. I would rather have him be the man in red and white.
Yeah, I think, you know, to be quite honest, I think anybody would prefer that. I think if there's anybody that any backyard wrestler would say no thank you to, it's the predicament that you're in right now. Because not only is it, okay, we're going to, you know, this is a number one contenders match for the APW championship. No, that's not the case. This individual is not only looking out to wipe out your legacy and your legendary status, but it looks like he's trying to lay your legend bare. And that is a very disturbing thing to think about, because I don't know what exactly Lips has in mind, but it seems like he's going to have his way with fulfilling what you believe is maybe his false prophecy. But I mean, I don't know what else it could possibly be, because if that is the case being, I mean, that is a very difficult situation.
It is very difficult. It is very difficult. Lips, you know, it had to be somebody from outside of APW. Now, I am 2-0 for crossovers. I have beat Drew. I beat Daisy. This, I'm not sure how this is going to go down. Not only is my legacy on the line, but my personal soul here. I think that he will take anything that he can get, not just my physical, my physicality, my physical self, but he will take my mind, he will take my body, he will take anything that he can get. And that is quite frankly, that's disturbing, because there are some things that I wouldn't even do, but I think that he will do that. I think that he could. I think that he might end Jason Walker. This might be the end of me, but I will not let that happen. My legend stays, and that is it.
Well, Walker, I got a couple more questions here. This is really one of the trickiest ones I've had to ask, because Lips is a man that plays with fire. Now, is your strategy, if you are to accept? Well, this is the first question. Do you think you're going to be able to accept this challenge with Lips? Because I don't even know if he's honestly going to give you much of a choice. I don't know if this is, you know, it's very difficult to really go upon this, because I don't even know if Lips is going to give you a choice of whether you want to face him or not. I think it's one of those things that are inevitable.
I do believe that you're right. I think it is inevitable, but I might have to buck up on my horse here. But until then, I'm going to be in my castle, far away from the far away from the battle. Until Lips gets here, I I almost refuse to acknowledge that he's the man in red. He is not. That's it. I'm not in denial. He is not.
Jason, I don't know honestly if that's a good idea because look what you did with Drew. Look what, he tried to ignore your challenge and you incinerated a picture of him and his loved one. I mean, if that's a death you're willing to sing to, do you even know what could that freak could even think about doing? Because now I'm looking out for not only your physical but your emotional and psychological and mental well safeness. I want to make sure that he does not mentally break you, and I feel if you try to avoid it, if you try not to put out a fire, it grows. And
That's exactly right. It's going to be really really hard. I you're exactly right. What I did to Drew, this is a form of karma. This is maybe for my all my wrongdoings in life. I'm not sure. No,
I don't.
it couldn't possibly be that. No,
I don't
no.
think it's that at all. I think, I've been in the business for a while. I think it's just right now you're trying to find yourself and you're battling your own inner demons, and Lips is just there for the ride. And he
Uh,
loves to watch this legend human and afraid. And he is literally going to take advantage of that. And like a shark smelling blood in the water, he's going to strike. And I'm just hoping that he doesn't hit a soft spot. Because if he does, the only way you could fight fire is with fire. But if he hits you in the soft spot, it's going to be hard to light the spark. And once you can't light that spark to fight him, you're finished. So that's pretty much the only advice I can give on that. I've never dealt with Lips as far as, those kind of issues, but definitely best of luck to you with that whole ordeal, and hopefully the best comes.
Well, thank you, Everett. That's some mighty fine words.
Yeah. God, I would not want to be that guy. So anyway, I would not want to. I can only imagine what it's like being Lips. Everyday business. Good God. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this edition of the CredeCast. If you want to see the very best of Jason Walker, you don't even have to wait. You could go back and watch Amazing Spectacles. You could see him take on Anarchy at Day Zero. You could see him take on Corey Graves and Chris Payne at No Resurrection 3. And you could see so much more, including him and Shavarticus in a submission match this past Friday, November the Fall. And if you just can't wait to see it, just wait just a little bit more, because coming up, you're going to see Jason Walker versus Thomas Gray at Absolute Zero. And down the road, perhaps it looks like it's going to be official at Retro Invasion. You may see Jason Walker versus Lips. Jason, I want to thank you very much for being here on the CredeCast.
Oh, yep. Thank you for having me. We'll see if I survive till 2016 to regain my status.
Yeah, I mean, that's the hardest thing, because right now you got a bit of a schedule on you. You got to deal with Thomas Gray, and then once you get through that, then you got to deal with this man in red Lips. So definitely best of luck to you. I know there's a polarizing opinion of Jason Walker, but that's one of the things that gets you over here in the business. Jason, thank you very much. Thank you guys for watching the CredeCast, and this is the Self Supremacy signing out.